Just 5 days in to Joseph Biden's presidency, and we're already seeing a duplicitous double standard being implemented by the U.S. media. If you needed any more evidence that the U.S. was operating under a duplicitous double standard and was lying to the American people, well, we have all our evidence now. If it wasn't already clear, and you weren't already convinced that the mainstream media was lying to you, the news cycle over the next couple of weeks should pretty much solidify your understanding of just how bad journalism in this country has become. Now, I'm not sure how many of you remember this, but you may have remembered back during the early days of the pandemic when President Trump started proposing a travel ban on various countries that were high-risking coronavirus countries, specifically China, where the virus originated. See, to normal people that would make sense, but I'm sure many of you remember things like Trump being called a xenophobe by Trevor Noah. I mean, this guy's a genius. All his credentials speak for themselves. But, I mean, Trevor Noah calls you a xenophobe. Boy, you better run for the hills. You know, the U.S. media was saying all kinds of things like, oh, Trump's travel ban skips countries that have produced terrorists. Well, what about Joe Biden's travel ban? He's already banning numerous countries in South America. But what about all the ones that are all over in the Middle East? What about those bans? Do they not count? Is he not skipping them? I mean, it's one thing to call Trump a terrorist or a xenophobe because he doesn't include travel bans from one country. But what's the guy to do? He gets called racist for implementing a travel ban in one area, and then he gets called the same thing for not implementing the travel ban in another area. Whereas the media, they then turn around and run interference for the Biden administration. They turn around and say things like, Biden to impose new travel bans as alarms of new COVID-19 variants grow. Why couldn't that have been the same with this one? Trump's travel ban skips countries that have produced terrorists. Why couldn't it have said Trump's travel ban, or Trump to impose new travel bans as alarms of new COVID-19 variants grow? Why didn't they say it like that? It's because it didn't create anger. It didn't incite fear. It didn't cause people to be erratic. It gave them the opportunity when they could say things like Trump's a xenophobe and they could parade this clown in the media, who, by the way, he has less of an audience than most of you YouTubers. But when they can parade him around and they can call Trump a bad guy because he skips countries that have apparently produced terrorists, which is, to my knowledge, every country that's ever claimed they've had an instance of domestic terrorism. But if they can say this, well, that tells you all you need to know about the narrative. But who are you going to believe? Are you going to believe them or the guy who makes National Guard troops sleep in parking garages and refuses to take responsibility? You know, like many of you, I don't have an audience. I have maybe, I think, 15 subscribers. I'm not the most articulate person in the world, and I'm by no means a political scholar. But that's exactly my point. If even I can see the blatant manipulation of media, if even I can see the lies, then my question is, how can most Americans not? How can we have gotten to a point where people won't even believe what's right before their own faces? Fortunately for me, all hope isn't lost, and I am pretty proud of the YouTube community, I must say. Fortunately, ladies and gentlemen, all hope is not lost. Apparently, I'm not the only one who has hypocrisy, and I'm proud of the YouTube community, and I'm proud of them pointing it out, which would explain most likely why they're trying to silence so many of us and keep us from being able to actually engage in content and content sharing. But just look at these ratios. Whew. I guess a lot of people remember. And these ratios, by the way, have gone up since the video was taken off the trending page. I think that we can all agree that YouTube is up to some, what do they call it, creative algorithming? Think of it like creative accounting, but with an algorithm. It's where you start to make the numbers not add up so much. You do your best to make them look legitimate, but at the end of the day, there's an unavoidable discrepancy to anyone who pays attention close enough. But don't take my word for it. Look at the community. The hypocrisy just proves how deep the delusion runs. Yes, it does. Remember when Trump banned travel from China for COVID reasons and Biden called him a racist? I absolutely do. In fact, that's the entire reason for this little segment. In fact, I don't even make segments, and I'm going out of my way to make one because of how infuriating and duplicitous the double standard in media and journalism in America is today. I suck at this. I know I suck at it. The only difference is, unlike the American media, I can admit it. If everyone remembers, Trump was roundly criticized for this and called a racist long ago, but I guess everybody thinks we smoke more pot than Bob Marley, and our memory and attention spans have gone completely downhill. Now, regardless, I'm willing to bet some of you do smoke as much pot as Bob Marley, and you still remember this. Why? Because it's blatant propaganda, and that is something that should concern us all. Well, ladies and gentlemen, feel free to go through the comments. Like I said, I don't do these segments, but I've decided from here on out, I'm going to at least add a little bit of content rather than just complain and bitch about what everybody else posts. I'm just going to post my own so everybody else can complain and bitch about that content. So if you like my stuff, feel free to subscribe. If not, don't subscribe. Just let me know what you think in the comments. I want to have an actual discussion. I don't care if you're on the left, the right. I don't care if you're a liberal or a conservative. I'm not going to silence anybody. I want to know what is actually going on out there, and I think that's something we all are owed. I think we are all owed the truth, and apparently that's something we're not going to get from our elected representatives. Once again, thanks for stopping in, everybody. Let me know what you think. Leave a comment.